All right, welcome back. Episode 206 of Chaotically Intolerant. We have a packed show for you today. We got Tyrese Halliburton hitting the game tying 2-point shot, not a three. We have rest in peace to Jim Irsay. He did die on, what was yesterday, Wednesday. And then baseball, rivalry weekend. Well, rivalry weekend. I don't really call it that because the Red Sox and Yankees didn't play. What the fuck? But before we get into that, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and let's go. All right, Mike. So let's start with Jim Irsay. R.I.P. to Jim Irsay. I think I've said some things about Jim Irsay on this show. I think they're valid things to say about Jim Irsay. But at the end of the day, he was someone who championed a lot of different positive causes. Him and his daughter were very involved in the Kicking the Stigma. What's the word? Like Kicking the Stigma campaign around the NFL, championing mental health among players and just anyone. He was involved in many different charitable organizations. I know with Chuck Strong, with Chuck Pagano, he donated a lot of money there, a lot in cancer research and a lot of really good things. And he did struggle a lot with addiction and a lot of different things throughout his life. And it was sometimes public, but at the end of the day, he did have a positive impact on the world. So really sad. Was he 65? Was it? 65, yeah. I know when I last saw him 2 years ago in Jacksonville, he was not looking very good. I think he was a bodybuilder, and a lot of bodybuilders, you see that stuff takes a toll on their bodies, or a weightlifter, I'm sorry. And, drugs and alcohol are not good for your body as well. And, but it was just sad. It was sad. He was a legend of the game. He oversaw one of the main teams in the golden era of the NFL. For a while, it was Colts and Patriots at the top of the AFC, and the Steelers as well there. So he was a very big piece of a really big time for the NFL. That's why they're so big now, is because of that time. Sad day. Definitely a sad day, I'd say.
Yeah. I think by all accounts, from at least what I'd heard players say, is that, Irsay was someone that connected with the players and really tried to. And, for all the sort of negative talk around him, I know, being from Baltimore, that he was a very disliked person.
Figure.
But
yeah,
again, as a person and as someone who I think he did struggle a lot with all those issues. He was a big music guy, right? He played guitar. He was very colorful as an owner. We tend to think of owners as very stiff, business people, and Irsay inherited the team from his father, Robert. And obviously people know the story that they moved out of Baltimore in the middle of the night in 1984. And I guess Jim took over, 1997 it was. So we're talking, almost 3 decades of him owning the team. Certainly very sad, no matter how you look at it, no matter what your opinion is or who your favorite team is. And interesting that on that same day that happens, Indiana sports has almost a historic moment, yes. Coincidence, but kind of, I'm sure, a bit of a spirit lifter on a sad day otherwise for the city.
His final tweet was good luck to the Pacers. That was his final tweet of his life. So I think it was pretty fitting. And again, like he kind of built. He was probably a big part of what the NFL looks like now. Would I say that I loved the ending of his tenure as an owner? Absolutely not. I hope there's some major organizational changes. I have a lot of faith in his daughter. She seems like a very intelligent, competent person. Yeah, Charlie. And again, like, you see the reaction from the players, former players, current players. Everyone seems pretty upset, which I think, that if you hear nothing about it, then that's not a good thing. But people are coming out in droves and speaking about how he touched their lives. So I think overall that shows the impact that he had on the world.
Yeah, it's interesting too. It made me think of Jerry Richardson, who passed, who played actually for the Baltimore Colts. I believe when he bought the Panthers, he was the only former player to be an owner, which always makes you think of it a little differently. And Richardson had the controversy, I think, with some stuff that, maybe some accusations and things, but at the same time, at the times I was in Charlotte, they spoke so glowingly of him and what he did bringing football to the city of Charlotte. And so again, it kind of, with Irsay, it's maybe the same thing where there have been negative things that surrounded him, and not necessarily how he treated people, but how, some of his legal issues and struggles and all that. But from an overall football perspective, he brings football to Indianapolis, right? He wins a Super Bowl. He's there for the Peyton Manning era, the Andrew Luck era. Great, cause that he supported with Chuck Pagano when he went through his cancer battle. So, yeah, it's interesting, when somebody passes. Obviously, even if there were some negative things about them, we try to remember the positives and
yeah,
community impact.
No human being is perfect. I think everyone has stuff, and I think honestly acknowledging those things even in death is I think that is important. Like, not just acting like they're perfect, like they were just a perfect person, like they weren't, and that's what makes them human.
And yeah, we also think too, just with somebody who's very rich and successful, it's easy to want to bring them down and to be jealous and say, well, it was nepotism. He got the team from his father, and he's an old rich guy, and he behaves bad. But ultimately, these aren't murderers. These aren't people that have done horrific things. That we're talking about here. What's that?
that we know of. I don't want something to come out.
I think he had an arrest, right, for DUI.
I think that was a DUI. Yeah,
mistakes, and you hope that they would learn from them as they do them. But again, we're not talking about somebody who's on trial for, mass murder at the same time. So again, these moments, you put your football feelings aside, or maybe just your jealousy aside, and realize that, someone who did a lot of good passed away.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'd say even you look at how much the city of Indianapolis has grown just since the Colts got there.
Yeah.
And Jim was important in that deal and getting them over there. And obviously the way that it happened was not an acceptable way, but I don't know who would be more responsible. I feel like Robert, at the end of the day, his father is probably more responsible for something like that. But, a lot of people's lives were made better just by the Colts going there. And, a lot of businesses were helped out. They literally call it the city Peyton built, or the stadium Peyton built. And, they brought Peyton to Indianapolis and they brought the team there. So it was clearly a positive impact on a lot of people's lives. Jim had a great guitar collection. I know about that. He a lot of very, very interesting things with Jim. But rest in peace to Jim Irsay. Is definitely a legend of the game. And we'll stay in Indiana. Well, I guess it was at MSG, if I'm remembering correctly. But the Pacers, Tyrese Halliburton stays hot. He gets a Kawhi Leonard-esque little bounding ball. Obviously, it wasn't Game 7 of the finals, but Game 1, that's a big tone setter. Did the choking the choking thing like Reggie Miller so many years ago, and man, Tyrese Halliburton is on fire right now. He is about as on fire as you can be.
Right, and again, he last year missing games 3 and 4 of the Eastern Finals against Boston. Look, they were down 2-0 at the time, so, and not to say that they would have come back and won, but just some incredible performances last night. Halliburton hits the big shot, but how about Aaron Nesmith? What was he, like 6 for 7 at one point, shooting threes? He was 8 for 9 overall. Single-handedly got the Pacers back in the game. So 30 for him. Halliburton has 31. It was just a war of attrition kind of game, and they wore the Knicks out just enough when they got to overtime. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, because I was watching the game with a bunch of Knicks people, they had a 4-point lead, the Knicks did, in overtime when it started, I think. I'm just looking to verify that. But they just kept battling back, and they've kind of done this all postseason. And this is a team that, I don't know what it is in sports, but if you look back at kind of teams that have gone on more of these, I don't know if you want to call them Cinderella runs, but more surprise teams that come in as like a lower seed. There's a common theme I find with teams, and by the way, yes, the Knicks did actually lead with 3 minutes in 3:11 left in overtime. They were up by 4. Remember, they were up like 14 with 2.5 left. It's generally teams that were supposed to be good at the beginning of the year and then underperformed for a great part of the year, and then found their footing at the right time, coming in as kind of an underdog or an afterthought. So Indiana's a 4 seed, but they're a team that made the conference finals last year. They're a team that was expected to be good. I think about like the Nationals when they won the World Series. They had just underperformed so much to that point, but they had been, supposed to be good. The Braves in 2021. So sometimes these teams like Florida a couple of years ago, when they went to their first cup, they went in as an 8 seed, and they were coming off a year where they were the 1, and they had just underperformed so much. And so maybe Indiana is in this, back to like 2005 Steelers, these teams that kind of figure out a way to play their best ball at the right time and to kind of say to themselves, like, look, we've underperformed to this point. We have to get it going. And so just such a well-rounded effort by Indiana. And when, like you said, with the Kawhi shot, the similarities to that, when you have those moments, you start to think maybe it is their year, And again, the choke thing was so funny at the time because when he hit the shot, I think everybody thought that was it. That was the game winner. And then they look at it and his toe was on the line. And imagine they lose that game in overtime. Then that becomes a meme of like, oh, well, he's just doing that. That's himself choking, right? Or whatever. But obviously worked out well for him. And he is not a popular figure in New York. People really seem to dislike Halliburton. I don't get it. He seems like a pretty likable guy for the most part. What I could tell, I don't know. I mean, he's had that thing with his dad and Giannis, though, so I'm sure that didn't help his case. A little scuffle or something there.
I mean, listen, you want to talk about toxic sports fans? I think New York is right up there at the very
Absolutely.
top. Just overall, as a sports city, throwing trash when they beat the Celtics and they're throwing trash on that Indiana Pacers fan just for wearing his jersey. Like that is those people. Now, I'm not saying every Knicks fan is like that. I'm not saying every New York sports fan is like that, obviously. But those specific people are just human trash to me. Like throwing trash on someone just for wearing a jersey. And it's not even at the game. The Pacers weren't even playing in the game. And you're throwing trash on someone like that. I mean, those people, if the Knicks were really smart, James Dolan would ban those fans from the stadium for the rest of their lives. Like that is just... you are the lowest of the low for throwing trash on another human being. Like watching that video, you just feel so much like, why are these people allowed to walk the earth free after doing something like that?
Yeah, it seems like it's more, with the exception of course, LA or at least Dodgers fans. It's pretty much primarily like the East Coast sports fans.
Yeah. Philly, even Philly, Boston.
I'll say it. Absolutely. I think
Boston has a horrible history with especially racism.
Yeah. I think Baltimore to an extent, but obviously Philly, New York, Boston are the kind of the ones that stand out the most. And I think the part, and living here, I can say this with more confidence. I mean, it's Philly's terrible, but Philly is all the Philly people, right? They care so much, too much about sports that they take it to this ugly extreme level. But then in New York, it's such a transient place. People who kind of come in, adopt the team, or who really kind of just come out of the woodwork at playoff time. It doesn't have that same sense of community because New York's a massive place. There's so many people that come here and are not.
If you put, I think, Philly people in LA, because there is that like LA feeling to New York of this is a big city. People, when they're bad, no one cares. Like when the Phillies are bad, you're going to know. The Phillies are bad because people are going to be pissed. When the Eagles are bad, remember at the beginning of this past season, and they were 2-2 and the sky was falling in Philly. Right. But I mean, if that happens in LA with the Dodgers, you don't know about it. It's just, you look at the record and you say, wow, the Dodgers are bad.
They come out to, in the postseason to watch Ohtani or whatever. It's the see and be seen crowd there. And New York, to an extent, the same thing. I mean, look, they were booing Aaron Judge the first month of last year. Remember, I was there. I was at a game in April against the A's, and there were a smattering of boos when he came out of the gate last year, really slow. I just couldn't. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I remember Kenley Jansen in L.A. getting booed. You know, you think about what he did there, and you know, Dodger fans would only point out a couple of chokes, not the fact that he was a great closer there for 6, 7, 8 years, whatever it was. And so, it is ugly, and it's like on the one hand, it's fun to kind of be in a city where you have this great socializing aspect of a team being in the postseason, and people go out and watch the games, and there's that crazy, you know, sports bar feel that you only get in these type of moments. But then you see those videos, you know, and also this has always bothered me. I hate it. I understand that celebrities do like their team, but with New York and LA in particular, to a lesser degree, maybe with Boston, but I feel like with Boston, it's more of like the athletes, the other Boston athletes that they'll show, maybe Mark Wahlberg, Matt Damon, whatever. But you see that,
Mark Wahlberg does not have a good history. I'll say that. I don't want him representing my team. He's had some really bad things in his past.
Well, didn't he also like get into a dust up with Kobe or something? Somebody did.
I don't know. I know there's something where he like beat some guy.
Well, yeah. He was. I think he was pardoned for that. But yeah, it was bad. Yeah, and that was in the early '90s. I'm just on my point here that you know you see all these celebrities on TV and you're like, oh, it's kind of like the accumulation of that equals the angst of just seeing one Taylor Swift at a Chiefs game is seeing 30 different, you know, Hollywood types at the Knicks game, right? It's like they have to have this little segment. And same thing when the Dodgers are in the postseason of like what celebrities are at the game, putting their LA hat on, showing their support for the team, you know.
It's the Rob Lowe wearing the NFL hat. You've seen that photo from him at the Super Bowl. He's sitting in the crowd wearing an NFL hat. Like it has the NFL logo on it, and it's like, oh my God.
No, but he's one of the ones they always show at Dodger Stadium in the crowd. And I get he is from LA. I understand that. Some of the celebs that are from there, like Bryan Cranston, Jason Bateman, or not Jason Bateman. Anyway, but yeah, that's not a reason to say hate on him, but it kind of personifies a little bit of that, you know. And you have Indiana, and as you know, as a Colts fan, Indianapolis is it's a basketball state first and foremost, right? The Hoosier State. I mean, that's what Peyton Manning used to say when he came to Indiana. He goes, well, we had to change the perception because Indiana is a basketball state. So, you know, the great Hoosiers and Bob Knight era and all that. And now maybe the Pacers, you know, looking for their first ever title.
Yeah, that's the craziest part to me is that the Pacers have never won a title and it's a basketball state.
Yeah,
I know it's more for the love of the game in basketball where like high school basketball is obviously very big over there. I mean, they play in stadiums that could like rival the Hoosier Dome, or that, you know, they can rival like some professional sports, and then obviously the Indiana Hoosiers, you got Purdue basketball. So, you know, but still, like if you want to be a basketball state, your professional basketball team has to have one title, just one.
Yeah. And I think it's cool. 2 of the remaining 4 teams have never won a title. Knicks haven't won since '73. Thunder have never won as the Thunder. They won as the Supersonics in '79. Funny because we don't think of the NBA as a sport with parity, but regardless of who wins, it'll be the 7th different team in the last 7 years. And then you look at hockey, 3 of the same Final Four teams from last year, and Carolina made the second round. I mean, it's like, and Florida, if Florida wins the East, it'll be what, 6th year in a row that the state of Florida wins the East. So 3 for Tampa, now 3 for the Panthers. I mean, you don't think of hockey. You think hockey would have a balance, you know, over the year. It's hard to dominate, whatever. And yet it's basketball that's got kind of the fresh faces this year.
Yeah, it's definitely been, and I think basketball is kind of jaded in the public perception of like you think of basketball and you think of the Warriors and the Cavs. That's really who you think of because that's what it was for a lot of people's like, you know, I think more of the golden age of basketball in recent years was first LeBron and the Heat, right? And they were doing it for a while, even though they did lose a lot of their title appearances. And then it was LeBron and the Warriors squaring off. So it's a little jaded now. And now you look at it and I think the Celtics winning last year did hurt a little bit because that was number 19. But yeah, NFL, who's it been the past few years? It's been the Chiefs and the Eagles. We had that, and then we also had, you know, oh my God, I can't believe I'm forgetting who was in between that. The 49ers. I'm sorry, the 49ers.
The Rams.
And the Rams as well. And then baseball, I mean, the Dodgers are just, they've been in it. They've been
Well,
in it
yeah,
for it.
but
But baseball has had a lot of parity as well.
yeah, you had Texas 2 years ago, Braves in 21, Nats in
Yeah.
19. I mean, it seems like every other year we had the Astros in 17 and we're a new team and the Royals in 15. But with basketball, it's been kind of nice to see. And after that 4 straight Warriors Cavs, that's when this streak started, right? Raptors, Lakers, Bucks, Warriors again, Nuggets, Celtics, and whoever wins this year.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's jump over to baseball. It was another good week of baseball. I despise how Major League Baseball did this rivalry week thing. Just because the Red Sox Yankees didn't play. That is the number one rivalry in baseball. That is it. When you think about rivalries in Major League Baseball, you think of Red Sox Yankees. Am I wrong? I think that's at least top 3, and you didn't have them play.
Well, you're not wrong. My argument would be that they play 4 times during the year. I think they wanted to just highlight that this is the only Yankees Mets series. I don't understand. I mean, I understand Braves Red Sox because there's history, but because other than the Yankees, there's not what feels like a true natural rivalry for the Red Sox, which is kind of a shame. Like geographically speaking. I remember they used to have Red Sox Phillies. Sometimes they kind of called that
I love Red Sox
rivalry. I like that too
one.
with the red, and they almost played in the '08 World Series. But I don't know. I mean, I guess I like them trying something. I don't like this whole open schedule. I actually would prefer to go back to the division heavy. You still play one division. Maybe have like one random series, or they always had their rivals play. So even if the Yankees were playing the NL West, they would have a series against the Mets. And it's strange. I mean, I miss the days when Toronto and Montreal would play. The Battle of Canada would have that.
Tigers Blue Jays is a big rivalry.
I think Toronto Seattle's cool because when they go out there, it's all the Vancouver people come down, and I guess Detroit too, right? All the people come over across the bridge from Windsor, but
the Vetter Cup. What are we talking about? The Vetter Cup.
The Vetter Cup. Yeah,
he's a Cubs fan.
Right. It just seems like you could just pick randomly one person that had some ties to 2 cities and say it's this guy's cup, whatever. It's and I guess the Rays played the Marlins. Nothing screams rivalry like the Rays and the Marlins.
That one I like because they do. They used to do. I don't know if they do it anymore. They do a wives game. The wives would play before the game.
Oh, that's cool.
Wherever it was, and they would play like a softball game on the field.
That's very cool. I remember about 20 years ago going to a game at the Marlins Stadium, and it was, they're getting 8,000 fans a night, and they were playing the Rays and then the Devil Rays. And I think there was a quote or something the next day in the paper from Mike Lowell. They were talking about the rivalry, and he goes, something like maybe 50 years from now when we have 12 titles and the Rays have 8, we'll be talking about this as a rivalry. I remember just thinking that was perfectly said by I always liked Mike Lowell, World Series MVP for the Sox. But I don't mind. I don't mind that they tried it. It's kind of fun. It seems like an odd weekend to do it. It seems like you would have picked maybe like July 4th weekend or Memorial weekend if you're going to do it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Arbitrarily to do it in early mid-May seems strange to me, but yeah, I mean, we got some surprises, right? The Angels sweeping the Dodgers.
Yeah. Well, I guess like before we get into that, maybe we can build our own rivalry weekend. Let's pick what we really think should have been the rivalries, because there are some that make tons of sense. Like I think Astros Rangers was right. That's the right one.
Yeah. Well,
Phillies,
because
Pirates.
Phillies Pirates, not everybody has. I mean, who's Seattle and San Diego? That's not, but Seattle doesn't have. I mean, actually, San Francisco would have been, but they're closer to Oakland/Sacramento. So it's
there's history there.
I mean, who's Toronto now? I mean, you said Detroit, right? That was.
They played Detroit, but I would more agree with either the Mariners. Honestly, like the Orioles feels just
Yeah.
because there's that history with the wild card round. I mean, it's not a ton of history, and there is the divisional, but I guess they did want to try and avoid divisional matchups too, because there's always rivalry with a divisional matchup. But
Right.
I feel like Tigers Blue Jays, like Battle of Ohio, I can see. I mean, Tigers Guardians feels like that makes a little more sense to me. Tigers
Yeah, I would have
Indians.
thought Blue Jays Nationals only because the Nationals used to be the Expos. So kind of that whole, but it's been
Yeah.
20 years now. And I think the other problem I would say is this is year 29 of interleague play. It's long lost its luster. I think if this was like we did some sort of interleague or we did like one series a year or something, it'd be like, okay, this is kind of cool. But there is no novelty when every team is playing every team and interleague play is happening every single day. It doesn't equate. Rivalry weekend or whatever would have made a lot more sense in the early 2000s when interleague play was still somewhat fresh. So I don't know. Another thing that would be cool that they could try is having a bunch of recent World Series rematches too. As you could have like a weekend where the Astros play the Phillies and the Rangers play the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers play the Yankees and the Braves. Oh, I guess the Astros were in it so much it's kind of hard, but the Royals and the Mets.
Like Red Sox. I mean, Red Sox Mets. You could. I mean, Yankees.
Yeah,
I think Yankees Mets
Cardinals.
would honestly be better just because of the Subway Series that they had.
Sure.
But Red Sox Mets. You could do Red Sox Cubs. That's a big one. You could do Cubs Guardians, even
Cubs,
though they're not.
Guardians.
I mean, that just
Dodgers.
wouldn't feel right because they're not the Indians anymore. That
Right.
wouldn't feel
Dodgers
right to me.
Rays would feel. I mean, because that was in the bubble.
I'd rather see Red Sox
Yes.
Dodgers.
I would too. Yeah. Or Yankees,
than
Dodgers, Red Sox, Dodgers. Can't go wrong with either to me. Yankees, Phillies. There's geography there, and there's the 2009.
And then just have the teams that haven't played in World Series.
The Mariners play the Nationals. Yeah. Well, the Nationals won. They were the last team that, besides the Mariners,
to be the first one. But you could do. What are the teams? I mean, Mariners, Rays. I don't know why that one. Maybe did Felix Hernandez have his perfect game against the Rays?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
I think he did.
Seems
That might be why I kind of like that matchup a little bit.
Yeah, surprised it wasn't against the Orioles. I remember the Orioles got no hit by was it Iwakuma? What's the guy? Iwakuma. Yeah.
It was against the Rays. I feel like the Rays have a lot of those too. They get no hit or have a perfect game. Something like
that. They got perfect gamed by Mark Burley, I think.
Yes.
It was also them, and whenever that was, 2010 or something. Was Dallas Braden's also against the Rays? I know he had a perfect game. That was that was against the Rays. Wow. That's
hilarious. I love that.
Yeah. So.
Anytime you're playing the Rays, you got a chance. Anytime you're playing the Rays, you got a chance at a perfect game.
Yeah, I know Domingo Herman got the A's. That was the most recent one 2 years ago. But the previous, not all the previous ones, but a bunch of them had been against the Rays. And Philip Humber, I mean, talk about random against the Mariners. Roy Halladay, Dallas Braden, Mark Burley, Randy Johnson. So anyway.
All right, well, let's get into our awards, our weekly awards here. I got my player of the week here. I'm going Bryce Harper. What a big week from Harper. 542, 1,300 OPS, a home run, 8 RBIs. Philly has won 6 straight, and they have found themselves in first place in the National League East, just over the Mets after the Mets lost 2 or 3 to the Red Sox.
Yeah, he's really starting to turn it on, right? And that's a scary thought because Phillies have, I think, do they have the best record in the National League? I think
a half a game ahead of the Dodgers at the moment. Dodgers are 31-19. Philly is 31-18.
Okay, yeah. I'll go with a guy that actually won the award, and I just want to go with him because he was a meme of a sad face last year, and that's Miguel Vargas for the White Sox. When he got traded from the Dodgers, had a 4-hit game against the Cubs and another multi-hit game. He's had 3 homers in the past, 7 games. The White Sox, I just want to give the White Sox something here.
Yeah.
I just want to give them something. And if Vargas can actually develop into the half decent player, I think they'll feel a lot better about trading away Michael Kopech.
Yeah, definitely. Yankees just hit a home run. I'm watching Texas and the Yanks right now.
We're really going to have to watch Yankees Dodgers again in the World Series. My God.
I pray not. They can't keep this up. I think we've been saying that they can't keep this up.
Well, it's the pitching. Naturally they lose Cole, and the pitching staff is everyone steps up. Rodon and Fried, and they're still waiting to get Luis Hill back. And, some guy named Vivas just hit a homer. He's hitting 182. To me, it's like the Twins too. Like you look and you're just like, how are they winning these games? They're not that good. And the Yankees, they're good. The Yankees are good, but when Goldschmidt's hitting 341. I mean, Judge.
Yeah, by no means are they this good. They are a good. I can't stress that enough. They're not a bad baseball team.
No, they're very good, and you could probably argue that right now the best team in the American League. Tigers are close, but it's frustrating, and it's frustrating that they have no resistance right now in this division. They're the only team with a winning record at the moment.
Yeah. My team of the week. I'm going with the Los Angeles Angels. They have won 6 straight. They swept the Dodgers in rivalry week, and now they are 5 games back of first place in the West.
I love it. In the absence of Mike Trout, they are hot at the right time. They run differential's not sexy, but they swept the Dodgers in LA. It's the first time the Dodgers have been swept at home in 2 years. So, yeah, I'll tip my hat to them. The Angels, they just need something good. I mean, they don't even have to make the postseason. They just be around 500. Just give the fans something.
Play meaningful baseball in September.
They would settle for meaningful baseball in July, the way it's for them. They haven't had meaningful baseball after the All-Star break in over a decade, it feels like. I mean, I think they made a push for a wild card, one of those, maybe 15 or I can't even remember. It all blurs together in those Socia years. But, yeah, hats off to the Angels. My team of the week, unfortunately, I say unfortunately, it's another team I don't want to see, but the Phillies seem to really be picking up steam here. And they got a great first career start from a young man named Mick Abel with 6 shutout innings with 9 strikeouts. I saw a stat that Jesus Luzardo is off to a historic start among lefties, something with, X amount of innings, X amount of strikeouts. The only other guy to do it, Randy Johnson. And we talked about Dombrowski and how it felt like the Phillies didn't do much in the offseason, but they brought over Luzardo, who had an injury history. He's 5-0 with a sub-2 ERA, firmly implanted in that Cy Young race, which is a pretty, National League field is pretty stacked with Skeens and Yamamoto right now. But you'd have to start looking at Luzardo as a candidate. They've done this with Ranger Suarez not being himself. They've won 6 straight. It helps that their schedule has been pretty soft recently. They get, the Pirates and the Rockies. So I understand that alone should not make them, oh my God, they're just a club that's on fire. But, and they did split a doubleheader prior to that with the Cardinals. They had taken 2 out of 3 from the Guardians. They'd swept the Rays. Like, they're playing really, really good baseball, and they're kind of doing it in a bit of an under the radar fashion because the Mets are still the favorite, at least the betting favorite in the NL East. The Dodgers are still the overall favorite by a long shot, by a lot. I mean, in baseball, you got the Cubs playing really well. But here are the Phillies, who have been to the postseason now 3 years in a row. I told you this fascinating stat, and I want the Phillies to win over 95 games this year, because if it follows the same pattern from 08 to 11, they increased their win total every year, and their playoff runs got 1 round shorter each year. It's like they won the World Series in 08, they won more games in 09 and lost the World Series, they won more games in 10, lost the NLCS, and they won their most games. They hit over 100 in 2011 and lost in the division series to the Cardinals. And then Ryan Howard blew out his Achilles, and then the organization fell apart for over a decade. So if things hold true to form, the Phillies will win about 96 to 98 games, and then they'll be bounced in the wild card series because the Mets will win the division.
Yeah.
Hypothetically.
All right. My bum-ass player of the week is O'Neal Cruz. Very ugly week. I mean, it's ugly for the Pirates, but he's kind of their representative. Him and Skeens, 0.67 average. He had a 243 OPS. He had one hit in his last 15 at bats. They were swept by the Phillies on rivalry week. It's just sadder and sadder as the weeks go by for the Pirates. Again, at least the past few years, there's been a little bit of a competitiveness from this team, but this Pirates team is just absolutely uninterested in playing baseball this year.
Yeah, it's so sad because they're just, they, like I said, they'd always had some like decent first halves, and you figured with Paul Skeens in the mix, there'd be some excitement. And now we're just thinking like, start the countdown before Skeens is like a Dodger or a Yankee,
Yeah.
And the Pirates they're rebuilding, but what are they rebuilding? I saw somebody commented, they're like, how do you rebuild what wasn't even built
there
to begin with? Yeah, it's disappointing. I'm giving mine to just because the Orioles have been such a disappointment. I'm giving it to Zach Eflin because they had a must-win, avoid the sweep game against the Nationals, and they needed their ace to come. Like Yamamoto, when the Dodgers needed him to snap the losing streak, he delivers a 7-inning scoreless gem. I'm not comparing Eflin to Yamamoto, but Eflin is the default ace right now. He comes out, gives up, I don't know, bunch of runs in the first inning, gives up 8 over 5 1/3, 4 homers. His ERA jumps from 3.13 to 5.08, and his ERA now almost 9 for the month of May.
Yeah. And Brandon Hyde was fired as well.
And Brandon
just
Hyde
not
was
a good
fired.
week to be an Orioles fan.
No, they did. Manzolino got his first win yesterday. It took him 11 innings and 2 blown leads, but they did manage to get a win over the Brewers, so good for them.
My bum ass team of the week, I was gonna go with the Orioles just because of how bad it's been.
Sure.
But I'm not gonna go with
But
them. I'm not gonna dance on your grave. I'm going with the Padres. This was a big week for them. The Dodgers get swept. I mean, how often does that happen? Especially against a weak opponent where you're expecting to have to kind of chase them. They've lost to the Jays, and they've lost 6 straight to the Jays and Mariners. They're playing right now against the Jays, and they're 2.5 games back of the Dodgers now. And again, like maybe they did defeat the Rockies. They did their job against the Rockies, but these are games that you have to win if you are going to win that West, if you're going to keep up with the Dodgers. And this week they have just completely failed.
Very disappointing for the Padres. They got off to this great start. You knew they weren't as good as that start. I just have so many questions about their offense, and I have questions about the depth of their rotation without Musgrove and Darvish. And I don't see Dylan Cease as a guy that can truly lead a team as an ace. He just is not an ace, no matter how much we want that to be true. He's not. And so there's legit concerns, I think, about kind of the depth, the ability of their top guys to consistently perform. And last night was just an absolute disaster. 14-0 to the Blue Jays. Can't happen. I mean, I think I said Cease. I mean, Michael King has kind of emerged as that ace. Do we know if he can do it, have a second consecutive great year, Pivetta, but I still am not sold that that's going to be enough for the Padres. So yeah, very disappointing. Don't take advantage of, and the Giants struggling too.
Yeah.
Bit,
You have to, that was a time to really take advantage of. I mean, you have a weak point in your schedule. I mean, the Mariners not as much of a weak point, of course, but the Jays are a weak point. And what is the score right now? I mean, they very well could lose 7 straight, and just really fall into a hole.
Yeah,
it is tied in the 4th at this moment.
Yeah. I think for the Padres, they got to turn it around fast. They've been swept at home twice this year already. They were swept by the Rays. Remember, they gotten off to this great start at home this year, and it's kind of, the wheels have kind of come off. Now they're 16-8 at home. I think they started like 12-1 or something at home.
They were some crazy number at home. They were very good at home, and it's fallen off.
Mine would be the Sacramento Athletics of Oakland, or whatever you want to call them. They have now lost row.
What did the Oaklamento? One of the announcers called them the Oaklamento A's, which I love that.
Sackland A's. Yeah, they've really struggled. Again, I mean, they were playing over 500 ball, and so kind of inevitable that they would slip. And they ran into a couple of buzzsaws. They took the game from the Dodgers 11-1, right? But you look at their recent schedule, the teams they've played: Mariners, Yankees, Dodgers, Giants, and even the Angels, who have been hot. So not, completely crazy, because the A's have run into some good teams, but it just, I will say this: the A's have had some very good stories this year. Tyler Soderstrom and Brent Rooker, 10 homers apiece. Shea Langoliers 9. Like, they've got some power. Pitching wise, they give Severino the biggest contract ever. He hasn't been great, 1-4 with a 4.22, but they've gotten pretty good production out of Jeffrey Springs. We've seen Mason Miller look pretty human this year. You don't know if maybe the league's caught up to him. Did he pitch a lot of innings last year? It's not a shocker that the A's are struggling, but 8 in a row, especially in a division that, nobody, again, it's like nobody's really running away with it. We don't think of Seattle as like, oh my God, you can't catch the Mariners. I mean, the A's are still 7 games out, even though they're in last place.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's not out of the question for them to maybe make some sort of crazy run at the West. But and then my surprise player of the week, going Will Benson.
yeah.
The Reds won the Ohio series, the big Ohio series against the Guardians. He's had 5 home runs, 10 RBIs, and an 1,800 OPS over the last 7 days. First career 2-homer game as well against the Guards. So yeah, it's good. It's just good to see the Reds doing good.
Yeah. Will Benson. I mean, that was not on anyone's bingo card, right? That he's been really stepped up big time for them. Yeah, and I would probably give mine to. I was kind of debating over this, but a guy that's been pretty hot of late has been C.J. Abrams. Remember, this is a guy that got sent down to the minor leagues last year, and it wasn't performance based. So we don't know exactly, attitude. Was there a clash with Davey Martinez? Nats are playing quietly. They've won 4 in a row, and they've had kind of a weird season. It feels like they've underperformed, and yet if I told you after 49 games the Nats would be 22-27, you'd say, yeah, it's not bad. They're not a laughing stock. Got some good young talent, but they did lose Dylan Cruz. That's a tough loss, especially not just because he's a good player, but kind of part of that young, exciting core. But Abrams has been rolling. I mean, he had a big 3-hit game. Of course, against the Orioles, who isn't rolling, but he also had a big couple of multi-hit games against Atlanta. Prior to that, he had a couple of 3-hit games against St. Louis. Like, he's really starting to come into his own. I wouldn't say overall it's a big shock because we know what kind of talent he has, but I think given where he was mentally last year, overall he's put up great numbers. He's been a real spark plug at the top of Washington's lineup, and he's having a really good season. 313, 8 homers, 940 OPS. And so I think that's been a pretty pleasant surprise for the Nats, I think, because there's a lot of talk about Cruz and Wood and some of the young pitchers. And here's Abrams, who's kind of just emerged as a steady presence at the top of the lineup.
Yeah. Give me an official state of the Orioles real quick.
It's a mess. I think the consensus was either Elias or Hyde was going to go. GMs tend to not be fired midseason as often as managers. I think it's a bit of a shame. And I always liked Hyde personally. I remember briefly actually meeting him at the beginning of the pandemic in Sarasota. He seemed like a good guy. I think the players did respect him, but I think mentally the state of the Orioles is so fragile. I think you look at the hitters. I think the fact that they're hitting under 200 with runners in scoring position, the only team in baseball to hold that dubious honor, kind of tells you that mentally they're pressing really hard, that maybe they're checked out's not the right word. I think if anything, it's just that they're pressing too hard.
That we said it at the beginning of the year. There was a lot of pressure on this team to perform highly. This was kind of the year of, hey, you got to go now. You can't. It's not cute to lose in the first round anymore. Like, you're not some young and up and coming team. You're going to be expected to succeed this year, and they seem to have buckled.
Well, and the game that the game that led to Hyde's dismissal was lost on a mental lapse, which you just can't have. And Batista goes to cover first base in the ninth inning against the Nats, and he kind of just, pulls up. I don't know if he went to argue the call, and as he does that, the winning run comes around to score. And you lose that game, and that kind of was just like, okay, that we cannot lose games because of a mental lapse. We're struggling enough physically. I think the problem too last year and the last couple of years really, and what's hurt them in the postseason is they've been a very all or nothing offense. They've been very reliant on power. I don't think it's shocking that they're struggling with situational hitting. It's always hard in baseball to say, well, the manager's not out. The coaches, the managers, whatever sport, they're not out there playing, right? But sometimes you need to shake things up. My joke was that the wrong Baltimore team dismissed its head man, right? It was Harbaugh that should go, but Hyde had been there. This was year 7 for him. Did a great job. In earlier on, 22, they have a winning record. They turn it around. 03, they win 101 games. They get back to the postseason last year, but 10 straight postseason losses, and Hyde never even won a single postseason game. And that's hard to shake, right? That's Jim Mora, Marvin Lewis-esque. You get to the postseason that many times and you don't have one single win. I think a change was necessary. They did get their first win yesterday for Manzolino. That was nice. They actually came through with a couple big hits in extra innings, only after blowing 2 leads. I think right now they have to be sellers. There's no question. They're not making a run. The way this team is constructed, they are getting killed with their starting pitching. I mean, we don't know if and when Rodriguez and Bradish are coming back. It's too late to save this season. I think they need to look at moving pieces like Mullins and Mountcastle while those guys still have decent trade value. Yeah. I think they need to prioritize either guys that are speed guys who can get on base or just more pitching, because you can never have enough of that. They did get Andrew Kittredge back from the IL. He had a scoreless inning. I think that'll help the bullpen. It'll lengthen it out a little bit, give them a good back-end option. But, yeah, the state is pretty dire right now. And it's tough because you just went through a full rebuild to kind of get to this point. And now I don't know if I don't think you're looking at a complete teardown by any means.
No, I don't think so. I think you still have a competent core. I think that young core is still there.
Of course. And there's still young guys that I think are still emerging. I think you're starting to see Jackson Holliday start to be more comfortable. They have confidence in him to be at the top of the lineup. They've gotten good performances from some guys. They've seen sparks from Laureano. O'Hearn's had a great year. We've seen some good offensive output from Arias. But I think this year you got to be more realistic. You got to at least treat this year as not a teardown, but as getting your team ready to be a little more, have a little bit of a deeper roster going into 2026.
Yeah, it's a remodel. You're not taking the bones out, but you're remodeling the house basically. Yes. State of the Red Sox. Keep talking shit about Rafael Devers, please. Please, for the love of God, please, I want them to keep saying you want Rafael Devers traded. Because what fucking moron wants Rafael Devers? What Red Sox fan wants him traded? I'm sorry, you're a fucking idiot if you want Rafael Devers traded. You really are. You are the biggest dumb moron, idiot, stupid head on the planet if you want him traded. And I would have said that when he was 0 for 20 at the beginning of the year. I still would have said that. At the end of the day, he's still not I don't know how many times I have to say this. He is not the best option for first base. He just is not. He's not a good defensive player. That's all you can say. And I think he would agree with you on that. Nick Sogard plays a good first base. I'm happy with that, but I really would like to. And I think Craig Breslow has been calling teams about more veteran first basemen that are available, which I would really like to see that. But this team is just so weird because it feels like every time there's a chance for them to say, okay, now we go. Like now we hit a run and now we go and we, you hit that, hit the turbo, you hit the NOS and you say, now we're going to show them who we are. They don't, right? You lose on Friday night against the Braves, in the uniforms. And it's like, okay, we lost the opening game. And then you go down 5-0, 6-0. Or you go down a bunch on Saturday and you storm back and Rafael Devers hits the walk-off on Saturday night and you say, that's the win of the year. That is the win of the season. You score 2 in the 7th, 2 in the 8th to tie it, and then Devers hits the walk-off in the 9th. And it's like, wow, here we go. That's the right moment. And then you lose 10-4 at home on Sunday. You say, okay, we regroup. We're going to see the Mets. You beat the Mets in the opening game of the series. And then I'm going to be honest. Walker Buehler getting tossed did not shock me. I definitely think the umpire was on a bit of an ego trip, but we know, you can't argue balls and strikes. That's the standard they set. They don't like arguing balls and strikes. We already know the history with Las Diaz being on that field and being at Fenway. Alex Cora and the Red Sox do not like Las Diaz. That missed call against Houston in 21. Obviously, it was way escalated by the umpire. The umpire should apologize, I think, for what happened in that situation. But you can't argue balls and strikes. That just is what it is. That is the rule. That is the standard that has always been set. Alex Cora, I love it. I love it when a manager goes out and defends his player. Oh, yeah. And when he gets thrown out, I don't want the manager going back into the dugout. I want him getting his money's worth. I want him to escalate it. And just like Alex Cora did, I loved that. But then, you lose your starting pitcher in the third inning of the game, but you still find a way to win. The bullpen goes out and they shut it down. They say, fuck you, we're going to win anyways. And then you say, okay, that should be the point now. That's the win of the year. You have 2 wins of the year within 4 games, and you lose to the Mets the next night. And it's like that's such a momentum killer. These are such momentum killers. It seems like they can't find their footing. And it really is it's the bullpen. It is the bullpen. Now, I know we only scored 1 run last night, but the pitching staff as a whole just feels like it's kind of holding this team back. And you really got to look elsewhere for guys, for someone to add and just kind of change the culture. And maybe you look in the organization. I don't know why Roman Anthony is still at AAA right now. I really don't understand it. I know Christian Campbell's been taking some balls and taking reps at first base. I'm completely open to that. I mean, the guy seems like he's open to learning first base. He's an athletic guy, so yeah, let him try it out. Bring up Marcelo Meyer to go play second base, or even put Trevor Story at first base. At this point, I mean, he has been going through a horrible stretch, and I think the batting would be him at the plate would be okay if he wasn't just so bad in the field right now. He has been struggling in the field. If we had a good glove from him, I think we could accept, okay, his bat just isn't what we expected it to be. So I would say maybe move him to first base. I don't know what you do with Trevor Story at this point, because I don't think you want to move him to second base because you have Marcelo Meyer down there in the farm. This is a frustrating state. And this is the same baseball that they've been playing since 21. It's been very mediocre 500 baseball, and that's what's so infuriating. It's not worse, but it's almost worse than what you're in right now, because we're just in purgatory. You don't know, hey, like, you see the wins from this team, and Jared Carabas on the Section 10 podcast made a great point. You can make a great highlight reel from this Red Sox team. They had that double team home run robbery, right? They had Rafael Devers walk off. There's been so many great moments from this season that you could put together into like a 10-minute highlight reel. And if you showed someone who didn't watch this season, they would say, yeah, that team has the best record in the American League, right? They are one of the best teams in baseball. No, they are hovering around 500. They are just finding ways to step on their own foot, to shoot themselves in the foot. They're finding ways to stop the momentum, and it's just infuriating to watch on a nightly basis, because that's what it's been the last 3-4 years.
Oh, and you wonder, I made that point earlier in the show about like teams that, are good, championship value bets because they were teams that underachieved. Right now, maybe the Red Sox are one of those teams where they really feels like they're underachieving. Look, you still have 2/3 of the season left. You're not
absolutely.
You're probably not going to win the AL East the way it's shaping up. But as far as a wild card, as far as all these teams being bunched together and having a chance to get in, why not? The only thing that I had to take away from the Walker Buehler thing was it's not so much the umpires miss calls. They're human. You or I could get back there and think we're going to do a better job, and we're absolutely not. But
that was middle. That was
I know. Well, my point on this was not, yes, it was an egregious miscall, what I hate, and I don't know if this is like some subconscious, universal, unwritten rule among umpires, but when the pitcher either misses his location, the catcher has to reach, or it's a steal. I don't know. They say that throws the umpire off. I don't know how you still don't see the pitch going right down the middle. It's like saying if the catcher drops a pitch that's right down the middle, you're not going to call it. Like, you cannot penalize intent or, movement or situation. I hate that. It was like, oh, he was stealing, so I didn't really see it, and the catcher was moving. It's how do you don't miss that? It's still you're still looking at the ball coming right down the middle, and so the feeling was like not, oh, he missed that. If that was just a normal pitch and it wasn't a steal, would he have called that a ball? Almost certainly not. But it just, I don't know what the umpires just have this in their head that they're not going to call that. So that really bothered me. And I understand, obviously, the egregiousness of the missed call anyway. But the fact that, and Bueller was probably pissed, that's like, oh, but because he was stealing, that's why he didn't call it. Or something like there was a reason, you actually gave a reason for missing that call.
Then if we're going to go like that, pitches just shouldn't, if someone is stealing, the pitch shouldn't matter. If that's how it's going to be, umpires can't make the correct call. Like, it should just not go in the books as a pitch. You know what I mean? If someone's stealing, like if they can't make a correct call, then just don't make it a pitch at all. It can't be a ball or strike. It's just nothing.
Yeah, and I do hate the idea of a challenge system for balls and strikes, but it's almost like a situation like that. Maybe for pitches like steals, maybe there should be something, because it seems like that happens more than it should.
I'm okay with a challenge system. Just as you watch more and more and you really like see it, I'm okay with a challenge system, but they have to do it where it's not. Like, you have a limited amount of challenges that you can get wrong. But if you keep getting them right, then you should be able to just, because the NFL has it where you run out of challenges no matter what. Even if you get them right, you have 2 challenges in each half if you get them right. And it's like, well, why can't you challenge an incorrect call? Doesn't matter. I mean, if you challenge it, then why are you having 3 calls that need challenges?
Right.
You know what I mean? It just makes no sense to me. I'm fine if they do it where you have an unlimited amount of challenges as long as you get them right. But if you get it wrong on I don't know, maybe if you get 2 wrong, then it should be over. But yeah, I mean, I think a challenge system, especially there, would be incredibly important. And then throwing out a pitcher a starting pitcher in the 3rd inning of a game is egregious to me as well. You just don't do that. You don't do that. You give a warning. That's all you have to do. Why are you throwing him out immediately? There was nothing else. I think there was maybe Lindor getting hit with the pitch, and that was it. Like, he got hit on the foot. Bueller was upset that Lindor didn't try and get his foot out of the way, and that was it. They said he leaned in, which he kind of did lean in. I mean, you can tell. I think it was in situations like that. I don't love to say there's intent from the bat or whatever, unless it's obviously like he drops his shoulder into it. But that was a tough one. But still, there was no real reason to throw him out. You just give him a warning and say, dude, don't argue balls and strikes. You know this. So that was the crazier thing to me, is that he actually threw him out that early. Red Sox are at plus, I'm trying to look at the futures here. To win the World Series, the Red Sox are plus 2,500 right now. So not horrible. I see the Royals on here, plus 4,000 to win the World Series, or the Giants at plus 4,000. That one's not bad to me.
Yeah, because you also don't know how the trade market's going to shake out, how injuries are going to shake out. I mean, so you kind of have to, that's why they call it gambling, but you have to sort of gauge a little bit. Do they have enough where 1 or 2 players might make the difference?
Yep.
That's the other question.
All right, let's go through Memorial Day weekend series, and then we will get out of here. I'm going to start with Cubs-Reds.
Yeah, the Reds have been playing decent baseball. Cubs, I'm starting to look at the Cubs as a serious contender. I think certainly they profile as the favorite in that division, but the Reds have hung around. They're still under 500 by a game. Just lost 2 out of 3 to the Pirates. I just want to see if the Cubs can keep scoring runs like they are. Guys like Crow Armstrong, Tucker, Suzuki, Swanson having a big year. Can they keep it going? They're going to be in Cincinnati, small ballpark. We could see a lot of balls flying out of the stadium this weekend.
Yeah. Brewers Pirates.
Yeah, so, I mean, the Brewers, they got to figure out if they can catch themselves. I mean, they're still kind of in it. They were a team that won their division last year, went to the playoffs. They were Devin Williams blown save away from the division series. And the Pirates, I mean, they won back-to-back games. The same question for me is Skeens pitching? Do I have any reason to watch the Pirates otherwise?
Let's see. Friday night, he is pitching Friday night.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing.
Yeah.
Only reason. Giants, Nats.
Nats are hot. Nats are hot right now. They won 4 in a row. They still won more with the Braves. And the Giants, we talked about kind of team that didn't take advantage of maybe a little bit of an opening. They're still in second place in the division. I think they need another bat. I think Verlander just went on the IL, but I think their pitching staff, their bullpen, I think has been the best in baseball. But if the Nats want to make a run, look, they're getting the Braves and the Giants. This is a little bit of a prove-it week for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And the Dodgers do have a matchup with the Mets. So this, again, could be an opening if the Mets can kind of recover from their stumble against the Red Sox. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Blue Jays, Rays in Tampa.
2 middling teams in the AL East just trying to jockey for
relevant.
Position. But the Jays played a little better. I mean, they have a chance to sweep the Padres today. They're 5 games out. They're 500. I mean, they've been very streaky this year. They have. Will they be able to handle the Florida heat? These teams are going to start to face that when they go down there.
It's getting warm. As someone who's here right now, about an hour south of Steinbrenner, it's getting hot. It's getting real bad down here. I just had someone at work say, like, do you remember it being this hot in May? I was like, yeah, I mean, I guess I do, but it's getting warm. Orioles, Red Sox. I did not expect this series to be one of those. The Red Sox need to take advantage of a weak team, but here we are. They need to take advantage of a weak team.
Yeah. It's like who do you pad your stats against? We didn't think it would be the Orioles, but yeah, this is just the Red Sox have got to make some kind of move, and they've just been middling for too long. And the Orioles, it's like they're going to win their games here and there, but you got to take advantage of their lack of starting pitching, their lack of situational hitting, and if you're the Red Sox, you got to hit the ball all over the field against them. This is a take advantage weekend, because I think if they lose this, then you start to feel the collar tighten up a little bit.
I mean, it's mid-May now. Once you hit June 1st, I think really that's kind of who you are. If you look at it, it's obviously teams can hit hot stretches. I mean, this Red Sox team is like a hot week. They have a good week. They're right back in this thing, and you're talking about them as a good ball club. But it's getting late now. It's definitely
late early,
you're starting to work.
Yeah, but you're only 2.5 out of a wild card at this point. You got a lot of middling team. You still got the Jays in front of you, and I don't know how good Cleveland, Kansas City, and Minnesota really are. So we'll see.
Again, a hot week, just a good week, and you are right back in this thing. Guards, Tigers.
Tigers, best record in baseball through 50 games for the first time since 2006, which was a World Series year for them. Tigers 17-5 at home. Got to keep that rolling. Guardians have cooled off, lost 7 of 10, and this is a really tough stretch coming up for them. They've got the Tigers, and then they have the Dodgers coming in, and they're waiting to get David Fry back. But I don't know. The Guardians, to me, there's nothing sexy about them. They feel to me like a very average team.
Yeah. Dodgers, Mets, a big one, NLCS rematch.
Yeah, that's just going to be huge. The Mets kind of hit the skids a little bit. They got to catch themselves because suddenly they're out of first place in the NL East. Dodgers had their first 4-game losing streak of the year. They're really beat up, which is it's ridiculous because they can lose half their roster of all-stars and still be really, really good. Yeah. And if you're the Mets too, you got to take advantage of the fact that I think you'll face Yamamoto on Sunday Night Baseball. But you got to take advantage of the rest of the rotation being kind of beat up right now. And I just want to see if the Mets bullpen can hold a lead if they get one against the Dodgers. It's been honestly, those guys have been better than we would have thought. You look at the numbers. Diaz has turned it around. Garrett's been good. And Brazoban is 3-0 with a sub-1 ERA. But I think there's still a lot of people that are a lot of Mets fans that are uneasy about the state of the bullpen, even the state of the rotation to an extent. But yeah, this feels like a big deal, more so for the Mets right now. Obviously, the Dodgers are always...
Sunday Night Baseball is Landon Knack for the Dodgers, not Yamamoto.
So right, they do the Yamamoto gets the extra day. Well, then you really have to take advantage if you're the Dodgers of not having to face the guy that I think's been the best pitcher in baseball or close to it this year.
Yeah,
so this feels like a bigger deal for the Mets. Yeah,
the Mets will see Clayton Kershaw, who went 4 innings in his last outing. They'll see who is this? Tony Gonsolin. He's got a 4 ERA right now in 20 innings pitched. And then they see Landon Knack, who's got a 6.17 ERA in 23 innings pitched this year.
Sasaki, Glasnow, and Snell are all on the injured list right now for the Dodgers. So, yeah, you better take advantage if you're the Mets.
Yep. Padres, Braves. I think this is a good test for both teams.
Also, a playoff rematch, a wild card last year. Braves have clawed their way back to 500 in historically quick fashion. Padres are falling apart at the seams. They really, really need to get things turned around to the Padres. I think the Braves have a little bit of wiggle room because they've played so well recently, but it feels like the Padres, because both teams are in good divisions, don't get me wrong, but the Padres is just I don't know what's happened to them. And I can't shake the feeling that last year was their best shot. It really was. And everything was lined up. You had the Dodgers on the ropes. You just had to win one of the last 2 games. You had the dust up with ownership. You lose out on Sasaki. They didn't really make any big free agent signings. Like, it feels like they hit the mountaintop and now they're on their way back down.
Yeah. Rangers, White Sox. A great opportunity for the Rangers to maybe gain some ground in the West.
Perhaps, but the Rangers are scuffling. They're playing very average baseball. They're a 500 team right now. We're waiting for them to make the move. They have good starting pitching. They're without Corey Seager. And the White Sox, not horrible this year. They're bad, 15-35, but they almost caught the Mariners napping. It was a tight series, so yeah, pressure on Texas. Perhaps if they are swept today, more so.
Royals, oh boy, Royals Twins.
Yeah, Royals Twins too. Twins have been insanely hot. I don't know how they're doing it. I don't know why they're doing it. It's the same story every year. They're going to waste the playoff spot. Royals were in a funk, but just won a series with the San Francisco Giants. So I don't know. I think the Twins have got to start coming back to earth. I think this is a spot where now the Royals may be trending up, Twins may be trending back down.
Yeah, the Twins have not had a crazy difficult schedule in May. They saw the Red Sox. They saw the Orioles. They saw the Giants. They saw the Orioles again. And then they saw the Brewers and then the Guardians. So hasn't been a gauntlet. I'll say that.
Right.
Mariners, Astros.
Yeah, Mariners still in first place, and the Astros starting pitching. Man, they have the 2 guys at the top, Valdez and Brown, although Brown had a rough start. And then after that, they're dealing with all kinds of injuries. And now Ronald Blanco has a sore elbow. Noah Yordan Alvarez. You're certainly not like you're going to bury the Astros now. But given what happened last year when the Mariners had a 10-game lead that turned into a 5-game deficit in a span of like a month, Mariners better remember that, and they better find a way to take this series. They got to create separation where they can, because inevitably they're going to have their second half swoon. They do it every single year. I don't know if it's all the miles that they travel or what, but this seems like it's a yearly occurrence for the Mariners.
Yeah. Diamondbacks, Cardinals on Apple TV Plus. Yeah, I think this is a big series for the wild card, I think.
So it's Arizona playing the Cardinals. I like this. It's like when in football when San Francisco plays the Giants. Arizona, they didn't take advantage of a beat-up Dodgers team. They lost that series 2 out of 3. They're still over 500. The Cardinals have been playing great baseball. They have lost 2 in a row, but they look like a competent team. They did lose 2 out of 3 to the Tigers, but they had been really, really hot since then. They've been pretty good at home, 16-8. So, yeah, this is, Cardinals are not just thinking wild card. They're thinking division. I don't know if Arizona realistically is going to leapfrog 3 teams in front of them to win the division, even though they're 5 out. But I think the Cardinals feel like the Cubs aren't that much better. There's a 3-game separation right now, first place. So yeah, St. Louis has been one of the kind of low-key surprise teams this year. So we'll see if they can keep it rolling. And I think Arizona, to a degree, is underachieved, frankly.
Yankees, Rockies. The Rockies are on pace for 26 wins, I think I saw.
It is ridiculous. The Rockies have the 4th of 4 games today against the Phillies, and then they have the Yankees. I mean, their schedule is tough. I mean, of course, when you suck that bad, every game's a tough game, but they don't have like a stretch where they play the White Sox and the A's and the Marlins. I mean, they have some, obviously being in the division that they're in, they're all tough. And the Yankees, man, it's so frustrating because, again, it just feels like the Yankees are just somehow good. Like they should not be as good as they are, and yet they're winning these games, and then they have, games like the Rockies. I think if the Rockies get 1 game in the series, it should feel like a complete letdown for the Yankees. I would settle for that. I would settle for them just losing. Remember last year, the Yankees lost 2 out of 3 to the White Sox in Chicago. It was a big deal. Yeah. It was
this one's in Colorado. It's on the road.
Colorado. There was a historically bad Yankee. I wish it was a historically bad White Sox team last year, and it was a Yankee team that ended up in the World Series. And I remember thinking, like, this Yankee team's not for real, and they clearly weren't when they got to the World Series. It still feels like they are the best team in the AL in a de facto sense because the NL is so much better. And yet, here we are, Yankees, right at the top of the American League. Which, hopefully the Rockies can steal one.
Marlins, Angels. There's nothing interesting here. This feels like the most inconsequential series of the year, possibly.
Well, but can the Angels stay hot? They're on a roll right now. And now you get the Marlins. Can the Angels get over 500? Win today, take the series, and they'll be at 500.
It feels like it's not like when the Athletics play the Rockies play the White Sox. Like there's a little bit of fanfare for that just because of how bad the teams are. But this is just it's an uninteresting matchup. Like they're across the country. I can't remember when they last played like any sort of interesting game, Marlins and Angels.
It's such a weird.
It's a weird matchup. It's weird, and it's not interesting. And then Phillies Athletics. Just a good opportunity for the Phillies, I think, to maybe gain some ground on the Mets.
Yeah, Phillies.
Or not gain some ground, create some separation. I'm sorry.
Well, Phillies have had a very soft schedule. Pirates, Rockies, now the A's, and they're getting not just bad teams, but bad teams playing bad baseball. Yeah. And so this is it. That's why the Mets have got to figure out a way to stay afloat because the Phillies looks like they're not going to slow down. And so, the A's better catch themselves because, they've had a really tough schedule. This is a tough stretch for the A's, as I mentioned, playing the Mariners, the Dodgers, the Giants. Like they have to catch their footing. They have to win one of these series just to get some good vibes again in Sacramento.
Yeah. And Sackland.
Yeah.
Oaklamento. All right. Well, that's a good spot to wrap her up. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Go check out I Have Been Slacking on the NFL schedule release video that will be releasing today. It will be a separate video, not attached to this, but it will be releasing same day as this episode. So again, check that out on our YouTube, on our TikTok as well. And we will see you next week.